Hi everybody, it's Peter Schiff. This is Tuesday, September 19th, 2010. Well, Federal Reserve came out today with its FOMC statement on interest rates and monetary policy. And I really couldn't believe what Bernanke actually had to say in this statement. This is really a first. The Federal Reserve actually came out and said that inflation wasn't high enough and that they were going to take action to make sure that it was higher in the future. In other words, the Federal Reserve doesn't think our money is losing value fast enough. It doesn't think that prices are going up fast enough. The cost of living is not rising fast enough for the Fed. The Fed would like prices to rise faster than they are now. The Fed said that inflation is too low for its mandate. Now, what is the Fed's mandate? The mandate is price stability. Now, what does price stability mean? It means prices are stable. It means some years they rise a little, some years they fall a little, but that overall prices are stable. Now, the fact that prices are rising means that prices are not stable. They're escalating. Despite the fact that at least the Fed wanted stability, they didn't get stability. They got rising prices. Now the Fed is actually saying that price stability is not even a goal, that actually stable prices is something that it wants to prevent. The Fed wants rising prices. The only question is, how fast should they rise every year? Now, the Fed didn't state what its new target is, how fast it wants prices to rise. It simply said that they're not rising fast enough right now and that the Fed would like to see prices going up even faster, which means the Fed doesn't think we're paying enough for food, we're not paying enough for energy, we're not paying enough for clothing, we're not paying enough for health care or education, or whatever it is we're buying. The Fed thinks that we should have to spend more money on it. And this is its goal. So if anybody is still wondering why the price of gold keeps going up, Bernanke just answered your question. In fact, as soon as the statement was read, gold prices surged. They closed up over $10 a day to a new record high. The dollar got hit across the board. It fell over 1%. The dollar index closed just below 80.50. So if Bernanke doesn't think prices are rising fast enough, well, he's going to get his wish, because a weak dollar means that prices automatically are going to rise. Now, of course, it was interesting, the reaction of the bond market. Bond prices surged on this statement because, of course, Bernanke is saying that he is going to create inflation by printing money and using that money to buy bonds. So in the short run, the Fed buying bonds can make bond prices rise, especially since traders want to load up on these bonds so that they can turn around and sell them to the Federal Reserve. But of course, in the long run, the worst thing that can happen to bonds is higher inflation. So the Fed is basically saying that it is going to destroy the value of the bonds that the traders are now buying. Of course, the only reason they're buying them is because they believe they will trade out of them long before the inflation that the Fed is unleashing really takes hold. It's surprising, too, how people are not upset with the Fed statement. I've always believed that the Fed had a secret goal of creating inflation, that was its way out, right? Inflate the way out of the problem. Create inflation. The way you solve the problem of home prices is make the price of everything else go up. Keep nominal prices high. But I didn't think they'd actually come out and say it. But that's what they did. It's like if you're planning on robbing somebody, you don't tell them in advance. Then they might take precautions. They might hide their valuables. The Fed is telling you, we're going to rob you. Well, people are going to take action. And if you don't want to be robbed, what do? You buy gold. You sell the dollar. You buy other currencies where their central banks are not acting as suicidal as the Federal Reserve. Now, maybe Ben Bernanke is so clueless, he doesn't even realize the tightrope he's supposed to be walking. He is not supposed to be warning his victims what he's going to do. He's supposed to make them think their money is safe while he steals it. So we'll see if this picks up the pace at which the dollar loses value. I would imagine that it would. But of course, I've overestimated the intelligence of the global investing community for many, many years. And so we'll see if they continue to be in the dark. Speaking about overestimating people's intelligence, let me speak a little bit about President Obama's, I guess it was a town hall meeting he did yesterday on CNBC. It was a whole hour. If you didn't watch it, it's up on YouTube. That's where I watched it. And I'm going to talk more about this in depth on my radio show, Wall Street Unspun, tomorrow. So make sure to go to my website, europac.net, and listen to that as I go over the highlights, or the lowlights of that speech. But let me just hit on a couple of them here today. First of all, Obama actually said that government was less intrusive today than it was 30 years ago. I mean, for who? Maybe for Obama as a community action guy or as the president, but as a small businessman? I mean, it's not even close. I mean, I can see, I've complained on this blog about all the new rules and regulations that exist in the securities industry. I am dying. Every day somebody complains. My clients complain, my employees complain. Everybody's life is miserable because of government. I have people telling me that, they think, oh, your compliance department, they're incompetent. They're not incompetent. The rules are incompetent. The rules make no sense. The rules are simply there to cause us to have to waste resources and waste money and waste time. So when you enforce them, you think there's something wrong with the enforcers. It's that there's something wrong with what they're trying to enforce. There are so many more rules and regulations. Taxes are not lower, like he said. They're higher. Maybe the rates are lower, but there's not as many deductions. There's all different kinds of income. The taxes are far more complicated. Anybody who thinks the government is less intrusive now than it was 10 or 20 or 30 years ago doesn't own a business, doesn't work for a living. Maybe Obama thinks so because he's doing the intruding. Also, one of the funny things he said is that the government is fixing the imperfections in capitalism. He said that initially, when we had these great ideas like Medicare and deposit insurance, people complained, oh, it's socialized medicine. Oh, you're going to hurt the banking industry. But now everybody agrees how great these programs are and how they improve capitalism. Well, I don't agree. They didn't improve capitalism. It doesn't need to be improved on. The government imposed socialism. The FDIC, I've explained, does damage. Medicare has done damage. And the reason that politicians embrace them now is because they have no guts. See, once these programs have a constituency, a special interest group that benefits from them, nobody has the guts to tell the truth. There were plenty of politicians that had the guts to speak up against Medicare, to speak up against deposit insurance at the time. But now that they're entrenched in our bureaucracy, now that there's a constituency that benefits, politicians are afraid to stand up. Also, what Barack Obama mentioned is he said that he wants to help create an economy that generates credit so that consumers can borrow money to buy stuff. So he wants an economy that enables consumers to go into debt. I want an economy that generates production, real purchasing power, real income, so that consumers can buy stuff without going into debt. Who benefits by going into debt? Not the average American. It's Obama's buddies on Wall Street, his banking buddies on Wall Street. They're the ones that benefit from everybody borrowing money. He talked about the fact that he's making student loans more available so that students can borrow more money to go to college. How about getting the government out of education so that tuition prices can fall, so that people don't have to borrow money to go to college, so that they can afford to pay for it? The whole idea that he's claiming credit for trying to create an economy where everybody depends on going into debt and going deeper and deeper into debt to do it, it's just amazing. And of course, adding insult to injury, the president was asked a question about his economic advisors, and he went over and praised Larry Summers and Timothy Geithner for all the hard work they're doing. They're working hard. Doing what? What are they doing? They're giving advice. How hard is it to give advice? Believe me, I give advice all the time. It's not hard. And the thing is, they don't even give good advice. They're giving lousy advice. How hard is it to give bad advice? They don't even know what it's like to give good advice because they haven't given any. And, I think I've given out a lot of good advice. It's not hard work. What's hard work? Running a business, right? Meeting a payroll, navigating all the rules and regulations to stay in business despite all the obstacles that the government puts in your path. That's hard work. And of course, there are a lot of Americans out there that are doing physical labor, that are working 2 or 3 jobs to pay all these taxes that Obama's imposing, to abide by all these rules and regulations. That's hard work. Timothy Geithner, Lawrence Summers, they're not working at all. All these guys are doing is coming up with ways to destroy the economy. That ain't hard. It's hard on us, but it's not hard on them. Take care, everybody.